And I'm Rachel.
And we're going to talk to you about the mole today.
Most people think of the mole as a furry little animal that digs tunnels and lives underground, or a big freckle. But what most people don't know is there's another type of mole.
The scientific use of a mole is what we're going to learn about today. The mole is a unit of measurement. Just like inches measures length, a mole measures the amount.
For example, if you want to figure out how long this piece of string is, you measure it. If you say, this piece of string is 10 long, that doesn't tell us anything. But if you say, this piece of string is 10 inches long, it tells us how long it is.
When using the mole, you're figuring out the amount of grams per mole of a certain type of element.
The exact definition of a mole is the amount of a substance that contains a certain amount of representative particles in that substance. But don't worry, we'll explain all of that.
Certain things in science can be defined by a number. An example in everyday life is when you get a grade. If you get an A+, that can also mean that you got a 100.
Well, a mole is the same way. One mole can also be written as the following number, 6.02 times 10 to the 23rd. This is called Avogadro's number.
Now that you know the basics of the mole, let's go about explaining how to use it. First, you need some supplies, a periodic table, a calculator, and a pencil and paper.
When you use the mole, what you're really finding out is the amount of grams for every one mole. So your unit is grams per mole. Like inches was our unit before. You need to pick an element on the periodic table.
Let's start off with a common element, oxygen, or O. The weight of oxygen is 16 grams, but that's only one part of our units.
The next step is easy. We take the weight we had for oxygen, 16 grams, and this is called the atomic weight. The atomic weight of an element is equal to 1 mole. This is true for any element. That's it. 16 grams of oxygen over 1 mole. This is called the molar mass.
With this information, we can figure out lots of things, such as density, volume, and the number of particles.
The equation for determining the volume of an element is this. Volume equals moles times 22.4 liters over 1 mole.
22.4 liters is a standard measurement of volume used to represent 1 mole of a substance. So let's say we have 2 moles of oxygen. We would set the formula up like this.
2 moles of oxygen times 22.4 liters of oxygen over 1 mole unit. The 2 mole units cancel out, leaving us with 44.8 liters of oxygen.
Elements are composed of atoms and molecules. But with the number of moles, or the molar mass of a substance, we can determine how many atoms or how many molecules.
The conversion factor is number of moles times 6.02 times 10 to the 23rd particles over 1 mole. This determines the number of particles.
The mass, gas volume, and number of particles can all be related through the use of the mole.
For instance, if you want to figure out the mass of this water from its volume, 1 liter, you must first figure out how many moles are in 1 liter of water.
There are 22.4 liters in a mole, so there's 1 over 22.4 moles in our liter of water. Now that we know how many moles there are, we can figure out the mass.
We can convert 1 over 22.4 moles to mass by multiplying it by water's molar mass, 18.02 grams over 1 mole.
So from this we know that the mass of our liter of water is 0.8 grams. Okay, now that we've discussed the mole, you're probably wondering why we would ever want to use a mole instead of by just counting atoms.
Well, Courtney, when you're making a sandcastle out at the beach, do you count out every grain of sand? Or is it easier just knowing that you need a bucket of sand?
Well, that's easy, a bucket of sand.
It's the same thing with a mole. It's much easier to work with a mole of an element than with the individual atoms. Now that you know all of this about the mole, let's listen to a song about it and its day, October 23rd.
Happy Mole Day to you. Happy Mole Day to you. Happy Mole Day, dear students. Happy Mole Day to you.
It's recording! How do you...
There's another type of mole.
Oh, times 10 to the
Come on.
I don't even know. Okay, ready?
How many
16 grams.
You can say that. With this information, we can figure out lots of things, such as density, volume. You are laughing now.
Okay.
Come on. You're laughing. I can't look at you when you're.
We don't need to think.
Okay.
Yeah.
get through this.
formulas in a